All right. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Evidence-Based Excellence Podcast, yet again with your host and friendly neighborhood far-right thug, Mr. George Cresswell, coming back at you with a quick episode for today. It's currently 6:45 in the morning, up a fair while now, and I suppose you could say that, I don't know, people are going to say that I woke up and chose violence, which, I don't know, I suppose it's not technically incorrect. I was scrolling through threads the other day and was reminded why I don't scroll through threads anymore. Very much reminded why I don't scroll through threads anymore. But I come across a post that I had to screenshot, and I knew I had to do an episode about. Titled this episode a little bit of a joke, that being never go full carnivore. Never go full carnivore. And that's because if you go full carnivore, you end up with silly posts like this. So there was a person on Threads, and they put out in a thread, really? Is there still people advocating for the calories in/out BS? Where did you do your nutrition PhD? Excited for a possible shitstorm on this post. So me seeing that, had to screenshot, had to use it as an opportunity to create a podcast episode for you guys, and because obviously sometimes the carnivore brain rot can set in. That's all I will say. So let's get into it, shall we? So the calories in, calories out BS. Well, it's hard to call BS on something that happens 24/7, 365, whether you acknowledge it or whether you don't. It's hard to call BS on something like that. It's hard to call BS on the physiological systems that keep you alive. It's hard to call BS, although people try to, because they try to seem like they're reinventing something, or they try to seem smart, and as a result, then they can dupe you into selling you something, which is the end goal, obviously. And they do it through things like this, and they try to sound smart, and they try to sound like, oh, look how, smart I am because I speak confidently and I call things bullshit, and I question where you got your PhD, making the appeal to authority fallacy. So obviously I don't have a PhD. But I do know, for example, that the laws of physics are a thing, and that there are certain applications of the laws of physics to human physiology that explain some of the results that we see, particularly when we vary the macronutrient composition of people's diets, but we equate for energies and protein, and then overall, at the end of a study period, provided it's done over a long period of time, which when we're looking at weight loss, that's what we want. Typically, we don't want to look at just losing weight for 2 weeks or losing weight for 4 weeks, and then they pile it all back on again, or even slightly longer than that. No, we want, as personal trainers, as fitness professionals, we want to make sure that people get to where they want to be and keep it. Okay, that's what we want. And if you go just off things like this, you'll think that, oh, I have to cut out all of the foods that I like. I have to only eat meat, and struggle to churn out a daily shit because I have no fiber, and can he go to the toilet in any sort of easy, pleasant manner? But I kind of lost my train of thought for a little bit. But looking at the laws of physics, regardless of how you feel about your own and other people's nutrition choices, and regardless of how you feel about what happens, it doesn't change the fact that when you equate protein and calories and vary the macronutrient composition for a long enough period of time, the results will then average out because the overall magnitude of the deficit was the same. Okay? This happens when you look at any sort of studies, and all of these are, I think, summarized in Kevin Hall's paper where he talked about the energy balance model and all of the others that come out, like I've forgotten the lead researcher's name on the paper that come out with the carbohydrate insulin model. I've forgotten the lead researcher's name. No, that'll be linked down below as well, but that's been thoroughly debunked by now. That's been thoroughly debunked at length, so we won't be going into that too much. But it's easy to say, guys, that when you keep protein and energy the same and you put people in the same energy deficit, over time they will lose the same amount of weight, regardless if it is slightly higher in terms of carbohydrates than it is relative to fats, or if it is slightly higher with fats relative to carbohydrates. Okay, there's many studies, you can find a couple down below that will show you. All you have to do is look in the results section, and they'll compare the two arms of the trial. They'll compare low carb and low fat, obviously saying the one necessitates that the other is higher. And you'll see that overall weight changes are very stable. Now, there is the one case where in the very short term, because if you're on a low carb condition and you're taking in a lot less carbohydrate, you're not going to be storing carbs. You're not going to be storing them as glycogen so much. Okay, so you will lose not only the carbohydrate that is contained within the glycogen molecule, you will also lose the water that makes it glycogen. Okay, there's about 2.7 parts water to every carbohydrate in one molecule of glycogen. Sorry, and you can store glycogen in your muscles, you store it in your liver. So when you lose all that, you lose surplus weight, and that in the short term can result in if this is your graph, for example, so if you're on the two conditions, so you might start off stable, and then we're in the low carb condition starts dropping down, maybe, or the low fat condition starts dropping down a bit more gradually. The low carb condition drops a bit more suddenly, but then it will average out. It will end up in the same place, okay? Because the overall amount of the deficit is the same, and that is because that is determined by energy in and energy out. Okay, that energy deficit is determined by energy in, energy out. Now, energy in is nice and simple. It's just the total amount of things that you intake in that contain energy on a daily basis. So you have things that you drink, things that you eat, any condiments, etc. All of these things, they count towards your overall total. Then energy out is a little bit more complicated. And that's where the second part of this post tends to come in, because you have your basal metabolic rate or your resting metabolic rate. You also have thermic effect of feeding, and you also have your thermic effect of activity. Sometimes you will see thermic effect of activity broken up into exercise and non-exercise activity thermogenesis, but overall there's three main sort of elements of energy out, sometimes broken down into four. Okay, sometimes broken down into four. Anyway, it says here, so that he put straight away down in the replies, thank you all for your contributions. So people were roasting him in the comments. And it says, does this mean that if I eat 2,000 calories of sugar or 2,000 calories of steak and my BMR is 2,500 calories, all else remaining the same, I'd lose the same amount of weight either way? Now, he's trying to do this to play on a logical fallacy that is somebody saying that, oh, you're saying that steak and sugar are the same. No one's saying that. What we're saying is that if the overall magnitude of energy in is the same, overall magnitude, overall calorie deficit is the same, you will lose the same amount of weight either way, which is true. Not necessarily making comment on how you're going to lose that weight or what's going to happen to your body composition as a result. Not to mention the fact that energy in and energy out, typically people view these as completely separate from each other. They're not completely separate from each other. They're what we call dependent variables, and energy in is going to have effects on energy out, just like energy out is going to have effects on energy in. That is because your body is constantly trying to restore homeostasis. Okay, let's take the steak as an example. So steak, when you intake it, it's very high in protein. Things that are high in protein are very difficult for the body to break down. It takes more energy to do so. That's called thermic effective food, thermic effective feeding, or dietary thermogenesis. Okay, a couple of different names you got for it. All that refers to is the amount of energy it takes to break down the amount of energy, or break down the food bolus into its constituent nutrient providing molecules, so that then they can be absorbed. Okay, so in order for it to be broken down so it can be absorbed and assimilated, that's the words I was looking for. Those are the words I was looking for. So it takes a lot more energy for something like that to happen with steak than it does with sugar. Sugar, comparatively easy. Okay, so let's have a look. When you have something like steak, about 20 to 30% of the energy contained within that steak will be required to break it down and assimilate it. Okay, this is where you get the idea of gross and net calories from, by the way, is that it takes a certain amount of energy to digest the things that you're eating. For fat, it's very easy. It's about 0 to 3%. For carbs, depending on what it is, depending on if it's a long chain carb, very fibrous, very hard to break down, can be 5 to 10. Okay, some carbs can't break down at all. Okay, those are your insoluble fibers and such. So some of them you can't break down at all. But anyway, steak, as a result, when it drastically increases this thermic effect of feeding, that has the effect of increasing your energy expenditure. Obviously, that's going to affect then the magnitude of your energy deficit. That could then drastically increase your energy deficit. Okay, probably won't be by much, but it can. Okay. It's one of the reasons, for example, why we advocate for high protein diets as personal trainers, as a general rule of thumb. Not just because they benefit our clients, particularly because they will be looking to gain muscle or improve their body composition in some way. And obviously that results in them wanting to get leaner, but also retain a lot of the muscle mass that they have, so that they appear bigger when they are leaner. And that's what happens. When you're leaner, you appear a lot bigger than you actually are. So protein is obviously very good for that. Elevates muscle protein synthesis, which is essential for muscle growth and muscle maintenance. Not only that, it improves your energy deficit because it increases the thermic effect of food, which increases, or thermic effect of feeding, which increases your overall energy expenditure. So that lifts the energy expenditure side of the equation. But then it also is very satiating. It's also very satiating. Protein is very satiating. What that means is that it makes you feel full, so you're compelled to eat less. As a result, it brings energy intake down. You don't tend to eat as much. Not only that, the energy required to break down the protein significantly elevates your body temperature. Okay, it significantly elevates your body temperature. You think of meat sweats when you eat a lot of meat, for example. If you go out for a family meal or whatever, you get meat sweats. That's why. It's because the body's having to work hard to break it down, and that generates heat, which increases your body temperature. The body then has to restore temperature to its baseline level, to its acceptable level, and as a result, that takes more energy also. So there's many things here that are present on one side that are not necessarily present on the other, that influence both energy in and energy out. And that's the thing, is that people think that these are just, separate constructs, and they're not. Things that we just make up to sound smart or whatever, or because we're part of the big food conspiracy. We're not. I don't wish I was getting paid that whatsoever, but see, I'm not getting paid millions of dollars by the big food industry. But what's happening here is that people are misconstruing the how these variables apply, so to speak, or the effects that they have on each other. And they like to do this. So you're saying, oh, it's just about the calories. So you're saying that I can eat, 2,000 calories of candy, and somebody else eat 2,000 calories of the steak, and we're gonna have the same result. But no, you're not necessarily going to have the same result. But if the overall energy deficit is the same, and it's kept over that period of time, and you keep it going for the same period of time, and everything else is the same, you will lose the same amount of weight. Okay. That being said, are you going to be able to sustain that diet with just sugar for that period of time? No, not necessarily. So a lot of people like this, especially when it's on the carnivore side, is because they're trying to demonize carbohydrates because they want people to buy into their way of doing it. Odds are they've got some sort of plan that they can sell them and all the rest of it. That's what they're trying. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to prey on people's ignorance. I don't want that to happen for you. Now you can go carnivore if you want. Many people that have said that they benefited on carnivore. If that's what you want to do, carry on. All more power to you. Just be careful. Just be careful. But yeah, same thing. If you want to go vegan, for example, go vegan. The best thing about being in my position, for example, is that you get it from both sides. You get it from vegans that say you're a shill. You get vegans that say you're a shill for the fucking meat industry, and then you get carnivores that are saying you're a shill for big broccoli. So yeah, fantastic stuff. But I'm here to bring you the stuff that's actually going to help you, and that is the main thing. Is sustainability. Now, for example, that can be in many different forms. Okay. If you can sustain a carnivore approach, go for it. If you can sustain a ketogenic approach, go for it. If you can sustain and I mean sustainability not in the UN trying to replacement migrate us. I mean sustainability in that you can keep doing the diet that's going to keep you healthy. That's what I mean. Okay, the exact opposite of what the globalist communists mean by sustainability, i.e., they sustain their power in perpetuity while we all suffer. Anyway, enough about that. But Professor Mark Haub, for example, done a great experiment to show this. Okay, so he is renowned for what is known as the Twinkie diet. I think I've spoken about this before. So he went on a predominantly junk food diet. Okay, because he was in a debate with I think he was a Stanford professor, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was a Stanford professor. So he was in a debate with his colleagues. They were saying, no, what matters is your food choices. You have to eat clean, bruh. And, he was saying, well, no, if I stay in an energy deficit and over this period of time, even if it's this, provided I'm hitting these baseline things just to keep me healthy and I can sustain it, well, I'm going to lose the same amount of weight either way. And he was right. He ran this self-experiment, and it's one of the great self-case studies that a researcher has conducted. And what he did, it was predominantly junk food. Okay, so it got a nickname Twinkies because that was one of the things that he ate on a regular basis. But he'd be eating predominantly crisps and donuts and all the rest of it, predominantly for his diet. He had a protein shake every day to make sure he hit his baseline RDA of protein. He took a fiber supplement also, just to help with daily, baseline gut functioning. And then that was it. The rest of it was just, whatever he wanted, McDonald's, all the rest of it within constraints. And exactly what he said it would happen. It was very, very predictable. He lost weight, but believe it or not, his markers of health actually improved. And yeah, and it was because he was in an energy deficit. Okay, now if what the guy here is saying was true, well, that wouldn't happen, but it did. And it's repeatable. This is repeatable. Okay, as we've seen in many studies that have said, when you vary carbs and fats but equate for protein and calories, you get the same overall amount of weight loss, even if sometimes you lose weight slightly quicker and slightly slower on certain conditions. You get the same amount of overall weight loss if the energy deficit is the same before you get to your maintenance phase and before you plateau. So careful when you're listening to stuff like this. I was very entertained, however, reading the comments and seeing people being like, no. Somebody did actually bring up the comment of the thermic effect of food. I was like, people are getting it. So you don't need to go carnivore. And any time that anybody says that is calories in, calories out is bullshit, they're instantly showing their true colors, or they're instantly showing where their true, not intentions, biases, whatever word you want to use is, okay, or are, because they don't actually care about the science or what the evidence base shows. They care about getting their biases across to you and selling you something and feeling better about themselves, feeling like they are right as a result. So never go full carnivore. I was happy to see, however, that he doesn't think the earth is flat. Which is good. Okay. Then we would have really seen, the scale of the brain rot that had set in, and maybe would need a bit more fiber in his diet to sort of sort that. I don't know. Yeah, but either way, that is a little bit about why you got to be careful on social media. You know, you see so much shit out there. But the main thing is, guys, regardless of the way you do it, what goes to the heart of the problem of weight loss and of body composition is energy in, energy out. Okay? They're not independent of each other. They are dependent on each other, and effects on one is going to have effects on the other. And I give you the example. So your food choices matter, okay? Because steak versus sugar, or anything high in protein versus sugar, you're going to get much better returns on your investment of the protein option than you are of the sugar option. However, you shouldn't just then have your diet solely composed of protein. You're going to have micronutrient deficiencies and all the rest of it. However, even if you, for example, lower your energy intake, let's say you lower your energy intake down, well, now you're not having as high thermic effect of food, and the more you get into your energy deficit and you start losing weight, well, now your BMR is starting to decrease, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis is going to start to decrease. You might start getting less energy expended in your workouts. So that also plays a role. So changes in one will always have changes in the other. Similar in the same vein, if you start increasing your energy intake within a certain range, your energy expenditure will rise to meet it, okay? So when you have a lot of food, let's say you have a lot of food in one sitting, try this next time, or have a look out for this next time. You have a lot of food in one sitting, and you're sat there, and a little while after you finish eating, say you're getting ready to go to the gym or whatever, you'll find yourself a little bit more bouncy, a little bit more fidgety. You'll be tapping your feet more. If you're in a positive energy balance, you'll naturally expend more energy because your body's trying to restore homeostasis. You'll be moving about more. You'll be, fidgeting more, as I said. You'll be tapping your feet to your music. Whereas when you're in a significant energy deficit, when you start to get into really lean phases, all that stuff will disappear. All that stuff will disappear because now your body's in energy conservation. Is concerned with energy conservation, not getting rid of the excess energy because it's trying to restore homeostasis. So no matter what you do, it's always going to have effects on one or the other. And oftentimes it'll have effects on both. So that's why calories in, calories out is not BS, is because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred into different forms. It's the first law of thermodynamics, and it can be applied to human physiology, although it is a law of physics. And that is why anybody who says that the laws of energy balance do not apply or they're bullshit, you know instantly to show them the door. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you found that episode useful. Nice shortish episode for today on another one of my new additions to the podcast, my brand new Canon Legria HF-G70 for as I said, for a project I've got coming up in 6 days. It is in 6 days at time of recording, Friday the 27th of November, Friday the 27th of September 2024. I'm very, very eager, very, very looking forward to it. Very much so looking forward to it. I cannot wait. And yeah, I will catch up with you very soon, guys. Thank you very much, as always. And yeah, have an amazing day, guys. This is your friendly neighborhood far right thug, signing off. Never go full carnivore, and Godspeed.